I stayed longer than I should have, though at the time it didn't feel like a choice. After my husband died, the house grew too large for one person. My son said it without saying it, that it made sense for me to move in with them. There was a softness in his voice then, something close to concern. I followed it. At first, I tried to be small in their home. I folded myself into corners. I woke early so I wouldn't interrupt their mornings. I learned the rhythm of their kitchen, which cupboard held how loudly the cabinet doors closed if you weren't careful. My daughter-in-law liked things precise. I told myself it was her home. I adjusted. Grief does strange things to time. Days blurred, but certain moments stayed sharp. The first time my chair at the table was taken by a guest, and no one thought to bring another. The evening they discussed repainting the spare room, the one I slept in, while I was still sitting inside it. The way my name began to disappear from conversations, replaced with, "We'll figure something out." Nothing was ever said harshly. That would have been easier to answer. Instead, it came wrapped in reason. "You know, it's getting tight with the baby coming. It's not forever, just until we reorganize things. You understand, don't you?" I understood more than they realized. Not the words themselves, but what lived underneath them. I had shifted quietly, from being someone they made space for to someone they needed to move around. The day it became final, there was no argument. My son stood near the doorway, not quite meeting my eyes. My daughter-in-law spoke gently, as if volume could soften the shape of what she was saying. "There just isn't enough room anymore." I remember nodding, not because I agreed, but because there was nowhere for the conversation to go. You cannot negotiate space where none is offered. That night, I didn't cry. I sat with a box of old papers I had brought with me months ago and never opened. Insurance documents, bank statements, things my husband used to manage without discussion. He had always been quiet about practical matters, not secretive, just thorough. There was an envelope I didn't recognize, my name, written in his careful hand. Inside there were instructions, not emotional ones, no last words, no declarations, just clarity. Accounts I hadn't known about. A trust structured in a way I didn't fully understand at first. And a property. Not here. Not anything connected to this house or this arrangement. Something separate. I read it twice, then a third time in the morning when the light was better. It wasn't sudden wealth in the way people imagine. It was something steadier, deliberate, enough to stand on without asking anyone's permission. For a few days, I said nothing. I watched how easily life continued around me. The conversations about furniture, about space, about the future that did not include me. It wasn't cruelty. That would have required intention. This was simpler. I had become unnecessary. The process began quietly. A call to a number listed in the documents. A meeting arranged. Papers reviewed. There was a formality to it that steadied me. People who spoke directly, who addressed me without hesitation, who explained things as if my decisions mattered. That was the moment something shifted. Not outwardly. Nothing dramatic. But internally a line moved. When I told my son I would be leaving, he looked relieved before he caught himself. That was the hardest part to see, not the decision, but the ease of it. "So soon?" he asked, as if the timing surprised him. "I've made arrangements," I said. There were questions, of course, practical ones. Where would I go? How would I manage? I answered simply. I didn't offer more than necessary. The day I left, there was no scene. My belongings fit into fewer boxes than I expected. Years of living can condense quickly when you've already been made to feel temporary. My daughter-in-law thanked me for understanding. I told her I did. I meant it, though not in the way she thought. The house I moved into was quiet in a different way. Not empty, just not filled with someone else's expectations. It took time to settle into it, to believe it was mine to occupy fully. I found myself hesitating at first, as if I might still be asked to make room. No one asked. Sometimes I think about how easily things could have gone differently, if they had made space not just physically, but in the way that matters more. But that thought doesn't stay long. What remains is simpler. I was not pushed out. I stepped away once I understood I could. There's a difference. They still call occasionally. The conversations are polite, careful. There's a distance now that wasn't there before, but it isn't hostile, just defined. I don't correct them when they speak as if I was taken care of by circumstance. It doesn't feel necessary. I know what was given to me, not just the house or the trust or the security of it all, but the quiet certainty that I was never as dependent as I had allowed myself to believe. And that realization, more than anything, is what I carried with me when I closed their door for the last time.